All right, good to see everybody. Thanks for being here, and we're excited to get back to a Legacy Stadium after a good bye week. Had a good week off, had a couple of practices. Our guys got a couple lifts in. We got them some time away, and I think the batteries are recharged, and we're excited to play a very good Louisiana team. The Sun Belt has really good football. If anybody would question that, I think you could just look at this past week. You know, you look at James Madison, and App has had a great football team for years. The Sun Belt teams that we've played have gone down to the wire. We were very fortunate to beat Old Dominion a year ago. Our game against App came down to a last-second field goal that we were able to block a few years ago. It's really good football. This is one of the better teams in the conference. When Coach Napier was there, they won 4 consecutive Sun Belts. Coach Desmoreau, played football there, was a great quarterback there, was the offensive coordinator, and he probably has his best football team. This is one of the favorites to win the Sun Belt this year. And, these teams are always athletic. They're older. They have a 7th-year quarterback. They have a veteran offensive line. They got some guys on defense that are very athletic. The middle linebacker, Osa, is an NFL prospect. The offensive guard, Gilly, is an NFL prospect. It's a good football team. We're going to have to play really, really well. And, we need to get on the left-hand side of the ledger here. So with that, I'll take any questions.
After the Ole Miss game, I think again on the radio show last week, you mentioned simplifying things on defense, maybe specific to the secondary. How has that process looked over the last week or so?
Well, it's what we're working on. I mean, we've basically had to reconstruct a whole secondary. When last season ended, the secondary looks different than we thought it would, and you have a bunch of guys playing back there that didn't even go through spring football. And, them being new, a lot of those players, this is the first time they've played football at this level, and you combine that with the pace of the Ole Miss offense and their skill level. You go back and watch the film. It's not just the plays they made, it was the other plays they could have made. I mean, there was like 2 other blown coverages that, we got fortunate. And, I think, again, part of it is the tempo which they play at, but you got to get lined up. If you don't get lined up, you don't have a chance. And, that was the first time really all year C.D. Kelly played for us, and I think he'll be better for it. I think, Capone Blue is going to get better. Jamari Glasker is starting to become a pretty good player. He held up pretty well. In the one that he got beat on, I mean, that was a heck of a throw and a heck of a catch. I mean, he was in pretty good position. But we've got to do a better job with our safeties of communicating the coverage and make sure that both halves of the field are on the same page.
Through fall camp, did you think they were further along than where they wound up being through 3 games?
No, I was worried to start the season. I mean, I didn't think we'd get Malik or Kalen. I didn't think we'd get them both back, but I certainly was hoping we'd get one of those 2 back. And, those guys didn't make decisions until, December, January, and then we never expected to lose Deshaun. And so all of a sudden now you're in a little bit of scramble mode. And, the portal in the spring is thin and expensive. And so we had to get guys. And again, I think when it's all said and done, I think C.D. Kelly is going to be a good player for us. But he basically pulled his hamstring in the first week of camp. The week before the Ole Miss game is really the first week that he even practiced. And then you stick him out there against that team. And that's a rough baptism. But I think he'll be better for it. He's getting more comfortable in practice. We've done a lot of tempo stuff in practice with our offense to just try to make that more difficult for the secondary. And again, we do that almost every day. You watch our practice, we always have a team fast. And so to me, it's disappointing that tempo would get us, but then, you look at who we're playing with back there, and it's a bunch of guys that are new to Wake Forest that haven't played together. And, to me, the secondary is like the offensive line, is that those guys got to be on the same page. And we clearly weren't in the Ole Miss game. I expect Yashin to play. I'd say he is probable, and I'd probably put Donovan in that questionable category. He's going to run again tomorrow and see how he feels. And it's a hamstring, and we've given him a lot of rest, and we're hoping, but again, we're not going to sacrifice the rest of the year. So, but Yashin, I would. I'd say he's probable, and Donovan is probably like 50-50.
Dave, I'm sure you can look at the rest of the schedule. Every game is a must-win, but how important is this Saturday before you get into your full slate of ACC games?
I've been a head coach for 25 years, and this will be close to 300 games. Everyone has always felt like must-win. So what's must win? I mean, we want to win it. It would help our season if we do win it. But just like the Ole Miss and the Virginia game, there's going to be a game the next week that we got to get ready for. So, our guys want to win. They're working hard. I don't think to ever say it's must win. Like, I don't know putting that added pressure on them. I think we feel that way with every game. And so that whole must win, I don't really subscribe to that as a motivator. We have one game every week, and that's the most important game of the season, and if we win it, we move on, and if we're not successful, we got to move on. That's the nature of college football.
Dave, during the bye week, how much time was spent on kind of regrouping these guys mentally and emotionally? How much time was spent working on what's coming up next?
A little bit of both. I think, the biggest thing is to just get them fresh. If you break the season down, we've really gone for about 8 straight weeks. If you take the 5 weeks of camp and the first 3 games, it's 8 weeks. And I just think, the players are here all summer. At times, there's things you got to get fixed, but in some ways you just want them to get mentally and physically fresh. You want them to look forward to the game. You want them to look forward to practice. So we certainly watched the film of the Ole Miss game, and we broke down kind of the things that, hey, we acknowledge that was a very talented team we played, but what were the things that happened that had nothing to do with their ability level, that were assignment or mental breakdowns or assignment breakdowns that could show up whether you play Elon or North Carolina A&T or Clemson or Ole Miss. And, those to me are fixing the fixables. And so we focused on that with the film. And then, there's some areas that we haven't been as good at, and we focused at those in practice. So, example, we worked on tempo. We took a lot of time, and we devoted a lot of time to red zone, what we're doing offensively and defense in that area. We worked on third downs. It always comes down to those critical downs and those critical field position things that usually determine if you win or lose games. And, as much as we gave up 40 points, we had the ball 3 times in the red zone and didn't score a touchdown. And again, some of that has to do with their skill level, but a lot of those were just things that we beat ourselves. The personal foul, the snap over the head. Those, again, have nothing to do with who the opponent was.
Dave, during the open week, do some of the guys go home if they're close? Do you let them go home at all?
Yeah, we give them, so we practiced, we gave them Sunday off, we lifted on Monday. Tuesday, we watched the film and had an hour and a half practice. We practiced Wednesday, we gave them Thursday off. They did a lift on Friday, and part of the reason we do that is just to make sure they go to class. And then we gave them all day Saturday off, and we didn't bring them back till Sunday afternoon.
Some people go home.
Yeah, most of the guys that live within 2 or 3 hours got to go home, and
Do you think that helps a little bit?
who knows? I mean, I think for our 5th and 6th year guys, this is now home. So if you talk to a lot of them, what'd you do? I hung out my apartment coach and we got together and we watched football and we went to the movies and we did this together. And if you talk to some of the younger players, you know, those guys are usually a little bit more anxious to go home. You know, usually somewhere about your sophomore, junior year, you know, this starts becoming home, and home becomes a place that you visit during breaks. And so I think the guys that have been here 3, 4, 5 years, you know, the majority of them just kind of stayed put, and it was nice to, I'm sure they slept in and relaxed and hung on the couch and had the remote control and were flipping.
Follow up to that in the previous question about what they did, or the regrouping. You've got a lot of guys who played a lot of football over their careers. How much of that kind of regrouping the team falls on some of your senior leadership versus the coaching staff?
I think that's always important. You know, every football season you're going to have your ebbs and flows, and you count on the senior leadership to try to keep the ship steady and not let the highs get too high or the lows get too low. You know, part of what we did in the bye week is we gave a lot of our threes reps. You know, we had periods that all we did was play the freshmen and the threes on special teams, because we know in this 5-game stretch and as we get down to the end of the season, we're going to need those guys. And so, you know, part of our approach over the bye was developmental. You know, we did a lot of what we call rookie ball or threes football, that the guys that are on scout team that aren't running our offense and defensive systems a lot, we tried to load those guys up with reps. I mean, we went 20 straight minutes one day, and, you know, we didn't scrimmage, but it was physical and they got to play football.
What's the key to a quarterback? You say 7th-year guy. I mean, you've seen plenty of film, right?
He's 6'3", 220 pounds. He's smart. He's like a kid that big, you wouldn't think he's athletic as he is. You know, and if they need a critical first down on 3rd down or 4th down, I mean, they don't hesitate to run him. And he usually gets it. I mean, I think when they direct snap it to him and, you know, they run the old single wing stuff. Do you know what I'm talking about, Cam? I thought I was going to date you. Who was the last school in college football to run the single wing? Denison. But he's highly effective with it. I mean, he gets it. And, you know, when he scrambles, he makes good decisions with the football. They got some really good running backs. You know, the one running back's like 235 pounds. Yeah, he breaks arm tackles. This is good football. You know, and again, this is, you know, Connor always references my FCS, that I build those guys up, you know, which I do. And again, I think my level of respect for FCS football is when I was at Villanova in the mid-90s in Richmond, we had pros. I mean, we went to Duke and shut them out. And when I was at Villanova, we played some Power 5 teams, and, you know, we really had Rutgers on that one still bothers me, 1996. You know, we were up 14 points in the second half, and still kid fumbled the snap in the end zone. They recovered it for a fumble. You know, and in my time at Bowling Green, I mean, we played Mississippi State when they had Zach Prescott, and really that was a 4-quarter game. And we had good players, and we had guys that played in the NFL, and this is a really good roster. They got a lot of starters back. They have a coach who knows and loves his school. A lot of these guys are homegrown. I think they have 84 players on their team from the state of Louisiana. So this is probably a very cohesive locker room. And these guys this is a good football team. I think just to figure out how to win games. I mean, I think he's played well. He's taken care of the football. He showed good feet. I think his work habits, as he's starting to figure out the offense, you know, the amount of time he spends up here on Mondays, I think the guys like playing with him and for him. He's got good leadership skills. He doesn't get rattled. You know, I feel we're in a good place at quarterback. You're not asking me like last year what the problems are at the position, so It's progress there.
Following up with that, Damon told us earlier that he totally fine 60 carries in the game. Is that something that's on tape for you this week? Or
Well, we've tried to get him at least 20 to 25 touches a game. That's our goal, and yeah, I mean, if that's what it takes, that's what we're going to do. You know, at the same time, you know, we'd like to have him for 12 games, and you know, when you do that with a back, sometimes their durability, and you know, we'd like Damon healthy for all 12 games. But if we need to do that this week and give him 20, 30, 40 carries, if that's what it takes to win, we're going to do it. I've never heard a running back that doesn't want that. And then when you do that, and on Wednesday they tell you they're still sore.
Be like the 2 off week of the season.
I mean, it is, I don't, like who we play, the order we play them, how many bye weeks. I mean, it's just, you know, it's one of those years that there's 2 bye weeks. So, I mean, I always enjoyed the bye weeks because I think even as a coach, you know, you get to catch up on your sleep a little bit. You know, our schedule as coaches is we work 7 days a week, and we probably average, you know, 14 to 15-hour days, right? And you can only do that for so long until your body starts breaking down too. So, I mean, for me to be able to sleep in till 6:30 or 7 o'clock on a Saturday felt awesome. You know, and my energy level was better on Sunday and better today because of the break. You know, but when you're not playing well, you want that feeling out of your stomach, and when you are playing well, you want to keep playing. So, you know, we had a good plan for it, and you know, we'll see how we play on Saturday. All right, big picture question. Like, it's almost at a point, Tony, that I'm disappointed if you don't ask me.
Fair enough.
So if you could just like one of those a week,
I got it.
because you had me running college football in a few years, so you know, this is my platform to show that I'm capable of doing that.
Fair enough. In your role on the Board of Trustees of the Football Coaches Association, what would you say is the obstacle to getting a rule in place to stop the flopping, fake injury, whatever? Because it came up again this last weekend in a few games with some teams doing it.
Yeah, Tony, I mean, it's the thing with that is, okay, the second that you accuse somebody of flopping and the injury is serious, I can't, you know, that's what the NCAA needs now is more lawsuits, right? There's another one filed now over realignment. You know, I have for 3 years or 4 years argued that if a player gets hurt, they should be out for the series. And you can buy them back with a timeout. And I think if a player goes down, he's out for the series. And then, you know, now if a team has 15 defensive linemen, they could still work their way around it. But, you know, I told you a few years ago there was a game that every time we made a first down, a player went down. Well, then we ended up hiring an assistant trainer from that staff, and they shared with us, yeah, that was like the training room was part of the strategy. You know, that it was well thought out, and nothing happens. Like the ACC turned it in, and the SEC confirmed that yes, the one example that the guy went down, then he went down right before the sidelines, was clearly unsportsmanlike, and we were told they would handle it. So I'm sure that fine was severe, and the punishment was so bad that it'll never happen again.
Does your plan, your outline of the plan, does it have any support among other coaches that you've shared it with?
It just never gets traction. I'm one voice, and I've advocated for that for years. That, you know, even in our ACC meetings, that make the player sit out the series. And, you know, I think a player is willing to go down and do that for his team if he knows he's in the next play. I just think if a guy is hurt so bad that he has to go down and needs assistance, how many injuries that are that bad can you be up 20 seconds later and play the next play? So, but again, I'm one voice. It hasn't gotten any traction, and I doubt if it will. And it's like a lot of things in college football right now. It benefits you to do it. And so you say that, okay, that you want to be ethical, and then are you hurting your football team if you're, and there's a lot of other coaches that are very ethical about it too. I mean, there's other people that I don't think would ever do that. I don't want to come off holier than thou in this whole thing. But I would have a problem asking one of our players to do that because they know what the rules are. And I just think that they would have a hard time respecting their coach if I'm telling our team to do something they know is, unsportsmanlike. I mean, believe me, with their tempo, there was a ton of times I'd have loved one of our guys to go down. But the second you do that, you're telling your player you're willing to compromise your standards. And, sometimes I wonder if I hurt our team competitively by doing that. I probably do. But we're told not to do that, and those are the rules. And, if that's the rule, we're going to follow them. I would just like to make the rule more punitive for the people who don't follow it.
Last year you guys started 3-0. This year 1-2 out of the gate. Do you attribute a lot of that? You mentioned moving parts on defense and things like that. Is that the main part of it, and then competition, or what do you kind of talk about?
I think it's a combination of all those things. I looked back at, this is my 11th year here, and in 6 of those years we started out 3-0. I think 2 of them we were 2-1, and 3 of them we were 1-2, something like that. And sometimes the better teams didn't get off to the better start, and sometimes it's a function of schedule. We played a top 5 team that we certainly could have beat, but we'd have had to play really well to get them. We played an FCS team that if we didn't get that one, they'd be passing the hat up in the Moracle Suite. Okay, and then we played a game that was probably a 50-50 game, and we didn't, we came up a little bit short. So I think we have a good team. I think we have a better team than a year ago, but like I told the team day one, I think this is a team that will have a lot of one-score games. And our ability to execute a 2-minute drill or stop a 2-minute drill and those type of things, will probably determine how far this football team goes. And right now in those games, we're 0 for 1. And this week's game will probably be another one of those games. So I would be very surprised if this isn't a one-score game that comes down to our ability to either execute on offense a 2-minute drill or stop one on defense.
Anything else, guys?
All right, thanks.